How has it dramatically changed like now as of recent times in your experience?
Yeah. When I started in about 2016 with IPO. Maybe it was a year or two before that. But when I started, we just moved to Washington, D.C., and the office was about 35 people. So it was a really tiny shop that was really kind of starting up the IPO program. And by the time I left, it was about 250 people. So we had a lot of growth during that period of time. But as we were sort of scaling up, one of the most important things for us was really sort of trying to make it a self-sustaining unit, trying to embed policy and embed fraud detection, national security, embed the economist, and really trying to make it as a unit that functioned by itself. One of the things that I think everyone knows is EB-5 is very unique in the immigration world. I mean, there's just not a whole lot comparable to it. It doesn't fit the sort of other categories, the EB categories or the family categories as smoothly. So it was really sort of important to build that unit out into a unit where you could specialize that knowledge and ensure that sort of all the pieces of the puzzle knew enough about the program to make it work smoothly. And I think we did a pretty good job of that. I think one of the things that's really changing lately, unfortunately, is that they are kind of dismantling that setup that we had. And I do think that's leading to problems, and it's sort of foreshadowing some problems I see coming along the way. They took out the policy program. The policy is now being done at the Office of Policy and Strategy rather than the actual IPO. So that policy isn't necessarily being done by people who have the base of knowledge in the program as it's happened in the past. And I do think that's something where then if you don't have that specialized knowledge, that means that some of the rules, they're not going to understand necessarily how that affects the industry, how that affects the actual work of the IPO. It may be idealistic or fit like sort of the policy goals that the agency has, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to clearly fit or cleanly fit sort of how IPO and how the ecosystem actually the EB-5 ecosystem actually works. And the same with FDNS. I mean, one thing that happened is they got taken out of IPO as well. So sort of anything that has to do with the fraud investigations or things like that, that's also being done by people who don't necessarily have that knowledge and skill set of the EB-5 program. And one of the reasons, especially for them, that we put that in there, it was really important for people to understand the program because we had a lot of cases where investigators went out and said they found fraud because, let's say, an investor in the regional center, they went to a project site in, say, California, and they said, "Hey, do you know this individual?" And obviously, the project's not going to have any idea who this random investor is in like an enormous capital stack. And so they would come back as fraud, and we'd have to go back and explain to them that's not fraud. That's not how the program's set up. And so, yeah, there's things like that that I think some of the dismantling under this administration is really kind of making it a more challenging environment for IPO to operate. So yeah, I think those are some of my concerns and kind of how we tried to build up the program at the time.